It's such an incredible skill to understand the market conditions of the day. And if you go down to the beach, what the Lifesaver has up there is this whole conversation around high tide, low tide, temperature of the water, and if there's sharks. And I want you to think about that ultimately, how often do we sit in the sales meeting and actually say, guys, this is what's happening in the market right now. Now, good markets, bad markets, hard markets, easy markets. Do you know what it's actually about? Learning to read the play of what's actually happening today. And when you go to think about whether or not a market's a hard market or an easy market, a hard market means you actually need to influence both buyers and sellers. And you've got to be in a position that you've got to go and do that because you're just not being carried by a 300 kilometer per hour wind that's literally just pushing you ahead. So when we go to think about a hard market, what makes it hard? Well, ultimately, the buyers just don't respond to all of the marketing. And you're actually in a position that you start to see some longer days on market. Now, they used to say that anything that is below a 50 percentile range on auction clearance rates would demonstrate a declining market, and 50 to kind of 55 is kind of a little bit stable, and 55 to 60 is definitely stable with a little bit of growth, and anything that's kind of north of like 65% is actually a growth market where prices are starting to increase. So when you say it's a hard market, what do you mean? Is it hard because you've overpriced the properties? Or is it hard because you haven't had the conversations with your sellers? Or is it hard because you're not actually doing the buyer work and you've been rapidly exposed? And what's the great conversation by Warren Buffett where he says that ultimately when the tide goes out, all those people that have been swimming naked soon get found out. And this is what you've got to think about, is that a good market, bad market, hard market, or an indifferent market requires a different set of skills. Maybe you've got to do a couple of key things. Maybe you've got to present to your owners the number of price reductions that have happened in your area over the course of the last 7 days. Maybe you've got to get 2 buyers to a property at the same time with 2 agents, so there's that feeling of competition. Maybe you've got to be in a position that you try to focus on more private buyer appointments midweek than rather than just waiting till Saturday. And maybe more than ever before, you've got to get better at what you do when there's actually a price reduction. Now, I was working with a client recently who got a $100,000 price reduction on an owner. And when they spoke with that owner, they said, no problems, we're going to go out there. And then what they did is they got back to the office and they just blasted out, price reduced. Now, all that does is it screams urgency, but it also screams desperation. And if I'm a future seller and I'm looking at you and you're just saying price reduced by 100 grand, and all of a sudden I'm not really thinking that you're a great agent around what it is that you do. So what you do in those moments really matter. And this is ultimately what the best agents are now doing, is they're really thinking through a menu of very specific things that they're going to do should they actually get to reduce a price. Now, that might be some very basic things. Number one, we're going to go and do a new buy match. Most of the CRMs are pretty average at actually doing buy matching, and that's because of the dynamics of what's actually happening in the number of buyers and how they're moving through the different price ranges. But what you can do is you can go back and say, anyone who walked through White Street would also be interested in Red Street. So let's get on the phone, let's ring all of those buyers. Hey, Hannah, it's Josh. I thought I'd give you a quick call. We've actually got a new price on White Street. I know you came through Red Street. What would it take to get you down and have a quick look at it? Now, the secondary thing that we're going to do is we're going to go back and ring all of the people that have actually inquired or physically inspected the subject property. Hey, Hannah, it's Josh. I thought I'd give you a quick call. I know you came through White Street. We now have a new price of $1 million. It represents exceptional value, and I'd love to get you down. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go and have a look at market appraisals in the price range before. So let's say, for example, that we've got a 4-bedroom home. We're going to go back and ring all 3-bedroom market appraisals and say, hey, Hannah, it's Josh. Thought I'd give you a quick call. We've got the perfect upgrader for you. The property in White Street has a new price of $1 million. We'd love to get you through it because it actually represents exceptional value. Then we're going to do all the normal things, the bumps to move it up and down on the search results on the portals, the e-brochures and e-blasts that come with that, putting it back on socials, but then making sure we get a buyer through in the following 24 hours so the owner actually links that price reduction actually equals buyer activity. Now, why is this stuff so critically important? That client that actually got the $100,000 price reduction just sent out the e-alert and said, you know what, price reduction. And I said to him, what happened? He said, no one replied. I said, so what are you going to do? He goes, I'll send a text. So he sends a text. I said, and then what happened? He goes, well, nothing. I said, so what are you hoping? He goes, I just hope that a new wave of buyers will turn up on Saturday. Hope is not a strategy. I said to him, how much are you getting paid to sell that particular property? He said, well, literally, my fee is going to be $65,000. You know what? You got to start providing $65,000 worth of service. Have a list or a checklist or a menu of items of what you're going to do to be dynamic so that ultimately, should you get a price change, that you can actually get that particular property sold. Remember, at the end of the day, people don't buy a 1/4-inch drill bit. What they actually want is a 1/4-inch hole. People just don't want a price reduction. They actually want to get to sold. If you know what to do and you can actually work hard markets, you become a phenomenal agent and you steal market share that others just never get back.